What's up, lore masters? So yeah, I've talked about Star Trek Discovery quite a bit. You guys seem to like it, so 2020 is just fucking wild.
I expected you to try talking me out of it.
Yeah, I know, me too, but Discovery still has a lot to prove, and if Admiral Vance finds out and you're not the one who told him, the entire crew will get painted with the same brush. I might have done the same thing in her shoes. Just for the record.
For the record, I do not believe you would have.
The analysis we're doing today of the Discovery episode Scavengers is going to feel pretty nostalgic. Okay, tell me if you've heard this one before. Michael is the executive officer on a ship when she identifies something that is exceptionally important to her. She thinks that the best course of action is to go against the orders specifically given to her by her captain and the Admiralty. She doesn't listen to anyone and goes rogue, doing her own thing. After a few events, this will ultimately end up saving people. She then sits in judgment of said admirals and her captain, ultimately being relegated back to a science officer. Admittedly, it's not exactly the story. There are a few beats here and there that are different. For instance, she keeps her commission in this episode but loses it in the original. However, it's basically the first episode of the first season done right. I've given you all the plot points, so I won't go any further because you should watch it yourself. Instead, I'll be focusing on a few things that I found interesting, as well as some complaints people have had.
In the past 3 weeks, Discovery has evolved even more than we could have imagined. Internal systems updated. Programmable matter has been integrated with our pre-burn technology. Even her nacelles are now detached, improving maneuverability and enabling us to be more efficient in flight. Her retrofit is nearly complete.
The transformation of the Discovery, going from its 23rd century look to the USS Discovery A 32nd century look, makes quite a bit of sense. First off, the ship is woefully ill-prepared for the 32nd century, so updates are required. Given how the Federation builds its vessels, updating a 23rd century chassis wouldn't be out of the ordinary for them. Starfleet ships are known for being modular. Not only is it practical, but hiding that this is a 23rd century vessel would be pretty important as well. You know, given that time travel is illegal. Though on that score, the really only contention I have is the keeping of the blue uniforms. Given that we know time travel is illegal, this is pretty glaring.
Your job is to follow orders, Captain.
One of the more interesting pieces is the fact that we get to see a map of the Federation, though at this angle it doesn't give us quite a lot. It appears that an expansion of the Romulan Empire has occurred based on what we see here, and the Klingon Empire either isn't doing all that well or has stayed the same.
We are being hailed by a vessel outside of the Federation's distortion field.
No one gets there unless they know where they're going.
People will also bring up the fact that Book's ship arrives back to Starfleet headquarters. This is a bit odd and dangerous, I'll admit. The location of Starfleet headquarters is a secret, for good reason, and yet Book programs it into his ship. I get that he needs help, and maybe he used tech to not be followed, but him having the coordinates and then programming it into a ship that isn't observed seems like a hell of a security risk.
She's looking for self-sealing stem bolts from the late 24th century.
Down there. Hang her right at the entrance, next to the plasma coils.
The references to older Trek series doesn't bother me, and I don't think it's member berries, or at least not that bad. They fit within the scope of the story and are used to move the plot forward after all. Member berries are often there just to say, hey look, this used to be used in the past, but here they serve a function. The ship being able to transform is odd. Though we have seen transformation of vessels in Trek before, so people getting upset about it confuses me a bit. This is the 32nd century. What a lot of Trek fans have said they wanted. Put it in the future. And in the future, you can do a lot more. To be fair, the people complaining about the transformation of the vessel may not be the people who were complaining that the ships originally looked too advanced. So there's that. I'll also say, given how much time has passed, this is probably something that they could have developed, but then it does make you wonder why they didn't perfect other forms of travel. But that's a conversation for another time. The overall plot having to get 3 Starship black boxes to triangulate the position of the burn is weird. First, to triangulate the position, you would have to get it from very specific ships in very specific places. It's not going to work like they say. The ship locations would have to be in a triangle or something similar to that. That's why it's called triangulation. If you have 3 black boxes from vessels that were right next to each other, it can tell you where the wave originated from, or at least the direction, but doesn't give much more than that. I guess it is possible to get some form of distance, maybe, but exactly how? It seems dubious at best. Again, this is the 32nd century, so maybe it's space tech magic that they use, I don't know. Ironically, even though I haven't talked about it much, at the end of the day, I feel like this was a character building episode. We get a lot more about Michael, Book, Saru, and Philippa. I didn't really go into it a lot, but that's because I want you to watch it. To delve too deep into it would be to give that away. Beyond that, they do get the black box, and it's a filler episode. It gets us back to where we were Season 1, Episode 1. It's just done in a way that was, as I've said, good. I'd be very curious about your guys' opinions, so don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.